All right. Welcome everyone to this Thrive Together Masterclass featuring my good friend and our resident tech expert, our go-to guy for all things automation and technical questions, Scott Sillari, founder of RealSync. So today we're going to talk about how to boost your production with automation, find out what's possible, and what people are doing, what's working, so that we can kind of learn from the best. All right. So Scott, thank you for taking time to be with us today.
No problem, Dr. Laura Sims. No problem. I'm excited to be here and chat automation, integration, and everything around that to help people's businesses thrive, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Excellent. That's what we're here for, right? Because I have lots of questions and I'm, picked up along the way from people we work with and try to demystify it a little bit, right? Because these are
Yeah.
things that in and out, and the rest of us were sort of scratching the surface and maybe a little intimidated by. So I can't wait to break it down. So can you start by telling us a little bit about your company and what you do?
Yeah. So, RealSync was founded in 2017. We started. The idea came from the fact that there was so many new technologies coming out that like people claiming use our all-in-one system was just false, right? It is, and it's still false today. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So there was no companies out there, connecting these different apps to create, a synergistic tech stack basically with automation and integration. And so the idea was, you know what? Let's create a specific middleware type company that can integrate these different systems for the real estate brokers, teams, and agents, and just help them be more efficient and effective with their technology. And that's kind of where we started. And it was a journey for a few years building the tech and working with all the different companies out there because they didn't have APIs, which we can go into what that is, but basically it's a way to connect this island to that island, right?
It's like the Rosetta Stone, right? So it's like
Yeah.
how we get things to really like talk to each other through, the messaging.
Yeah, exactly, the data, right? How to get the data to talk. So so it took time, and I was brought in to run the company. My business partner was kind of behind the scenes, and then yeah, we took off and we've been building new product ever since, and we're about to roll out a whole new product actually like in a couple of weeks. And so it's just a constantly working with teams and agents to to perform these things and offer integration, automation services and solutions with our SaaS product.
Yeah, right. Because it's like, as you said, it's always changing, right? What's available, what's being offered. And then it's also, as you said, everyone's looking for that all-in-one solution, right? They want the simple option, something, because they don't want to have to know how the sausage is made, right? Like they just like want it made, they want to eat it, fried up, delicious, or whatever. And so they're looking.
Yeah, they don't want to see the pig
They
getting
don't want to see the
slaughtered.
pig. They
Who
just
wants
want
that?
it. Yeah, yeah. They could care less. And so why is it kind of impossible or to have just that one tool that you go to and it has CRM and it has transaction management, it has like project management and communication and all of that? Like why I can see the appeal and why it hasn't that been done.
Yeah, I mean, the one word answer is innovation, right? But to circle back and talk about why, I think, running a tech company, it's once you have like what your offer is and what you're doing and providing for the client to like diversify and try to
Mhm,
add in more products,
mhm.
it's very difficult to be good at that many things, right?
Okay.
And so a good example of this is Follow Up Boss. Like they were acquired, right? Like last year for $500 million. And it's because they stayed in their lane. Like I've been working with real estate teams for 12 years. I remember being at events with Dan Corkle, the CEO of Follow Up Boss, like when he was working a booth, but he always was just a CRM. He
Mm,
always stayed in his lane and he developed being just a CRM. And of course, being open was a big thing and being able to integrate with his solution, but he stayed in his lane. So I think,
yeah.
when technology companies talk about being this all in one, it's like you're never gonna be able to master all those different things, like being the lead generator and being the CRM and then being the transaction management and being the phone call solution and being the texting solution and I can go on and on and on,
Yeah.
right? And
There's not going to
that's
be your zone of genius and all of those things. And you also
exactly.
can't anticipate, right? Necessarily. Like you might be able to do all the current things that are offered pretty well, but maybe like you didn't know how important AI was going to be. And so you didn't have an AI integration. And now you're trying to add it in and you're making everything all mucky and complicated. And so you're not able to do
Yeah.
it at the highest level.
So there's companies out there, I'm not going to name names, but like that are in that position that are constantly like, oh, we're going to keep trying to, build everything in house,
Mhm.
but then they're 6 months or a year behind the new technologies that are coming out, the innovative technologies, right? So that's why I use that word, is because people are like, there's constantly new solutions coming out that I'm sorry, if you're focused on building a really good product for your current users, you're not going to be able to innovate like that. And so that's why it's so important to have solutions out there like ours, to where we can quickly, connect to that new app and then bring it into your ecosystem so that you can use this new solution with the current CRM that you have, right?
Right, right. And then obviously there's also the issue of certain brokerages offer certain software, right? And so, if you're
Oh yeah, that's a
one brokerage
so
and they use a CRM, right? And the idea of your company then is to help integrate that CRM, like that CRM talk to whatever other tools you're using so that you don't have to kind of throw it all out and start over. But yeah, and then again, if you make a
yeah.
shift or anything like that, or all of a
Well,
sudden,
that's a big, I mean, what you're bringing up is a big issue that brokers have, especially when they're recruiting, right? Is because in what agents have or teams have when they go to that new brokerage, is brokers goes, okay, like here's like some of our tech that
Mhm.
that you have to use, or you have to use this transaction management solution to get paid. And
Right.
so now all of a sudden there's this burden on the real estate team to incorporate this technology when they've been focusing on creating this perfect,
Yeah.
tech stack for
Yeah.
their business. And it's like, all right, well, how do we do this without creating manual entry and creating all this labor,
Right.
labor work,
Added
right?
steps. Yeah.
And so
Wasted time. Yeah.
that's the problem we're trying to solve. And we haven't fully solved it yet, but like that's our journey, is to help solve this problem for real estate teams, agents, and brokers, to where it's a seamless thing to
Mhm.
keep using the tech you want, and you can connect it over here, and just it makes, again, going back to the word synergy, it makes it synergistic for your business to keep using whatever tools you want, because that they're going to automate and integrate.
Yeah. And so you guys sort of by design don't necessarily specialize in any platforms, right? Like you almost need to know how to talk to everybody or at least a lot of the big players.
Yeah, exactly. So like we're constantly trying to partner with, whether it's a newer solution or really like the foundation is all all the CRMs within the real estate space.
That's like because
Have
it's the lifeblood of the business. And so we really want all that information to be sort of sent outward to the appropriate places. But that would be
Yeah, like in
a source of
getting data inward, right? So like really that needs to be like the source of truth, of your data for your business. And then everything else kind of, you think through like how they connect into that, and when you need to send data out, and like what triggers the sending of data out or getting data in. And so for us, we're kind of agnostic. We're trying to connect to all these different systems and really make our a solution available to the majority of the real estate agents and teams of brokers in the space.
And I'm sure you also see some patterns or pairings, most commonly and sort of can kind of specialize a little bit in those or go a little bit of a
Mhm.
deeper dive in those pairings if those seem to be really popular. Who do you mainly work with? Is it agents, teams, brokerages? Like what size of client do you usually help?
So yeah, I mean, right now, teams, I would say for the most part, that are anywhere from 3 to 5 people up to 100 people, right? And a lot of times it's like the team within, maybe they have they're a broker owner, but then they have a team within that, and that's what they'd be using our technology. The broker space is tough It's part of our roadmap. And the reason I say it's tough is because, kind of we talked about earlier is like they're using all different technologies and they want you to use them. And sometimes it's like, well, we haven't figured out how to partner with that company yet. Like let's say
Right.
Moxie Works, right, is a big broker solution. It's like,
Mhm.
all right, well, we haven't integrated with Moxie yet, and now they're requiring this team to use Moxie. And so it's like, we're constantly having to navigate all these different technologies and trying to prioritize, what we can make available on our platform to,
Mhm.
enable the agent to, to have these things available.
Yeah, so you can help, you do help smaller teams kind of customize and integrate their tech stack, and then up to, if it were a small brokerage that wants to offer a solution to their agents, that you can help them kind of find the most streamlined solution. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we have a product that's self-serve. It's a tech solution. You can go and sign up and activate an integration. But we also offer, services, because we know a lot of agents, are assigning their operations person to do technology, and their operations person's an operations person, not a technologist,
I'm familiar.
right? Yeah, yeah. And so, we offer support as well, where we just like basically will come in, and usually it's like project based, like not like a full time type person, but like, all
Yeah.
right, like what you need, you don't know how to figure it out, we come in and just do it for
Okay.
you.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, listen, this is what I like to have happen. And you
Yeah.
have, that's kind of like a done with you solution to kind of
Right.
accompany them. And
Yeah. So like we'll talk through their tech stack with them, and it can be eye opening, having these conversations and how you think about your technology. And I'm always like, start with what you have. Let's
right,
maximize what you have,
right,
figure out how to connect what you have, and then it's going to give you insight to what you don't have and what you
right,
need. But a
right.
lot of times, an owner doesn't even know like what's capable with the
Mhm.
technologies they are using, right? So like that's always a really great place to start. And that's why we say like automation and integration, because a lot of times it's just like setting up some simple automations that are in this solution
Already
that you
offered.
have.
Yeah, kind
Yeah,
of like
exactly.
optimizing what you're already doing. Because if you're only familiar with the most basic functions, you're only getting the most basic results, right? And so you're
Exactly.
like, hey, this is helpful. And then, a lot of what I see in helping people update their systems and their processes and their procedures, it's like, change management is a big part of the job. Like change can be hard, right? And so it's like if you're already used to using this CRM or you're used to using this other tool, like we want to be able to work within it because you've already adopted it. And so asking you to, make a habit change is actually one of the hardest parts, I think,
Oh,
of
what, real estate agents and behavior changes? What are you talking about?
we're all
What?
creatures of habit, right? We all like our, we want to just kind of put it on autopilot and do our thing. And so, especially when there's new tech involved, I'm sure it's really difficult to.
Yeah, I mean, if any person creating tech isn't thinking about how do I get this adopted,
Mhm, mhm.
but don't have to change the behavior of the agent, because the agent won't change their behavior. They're terrible at it. And
Mhm.
they shouldn't be. They're salespeople. That's
Right.
all they should be doing. They shouldn't even be making phone calls.
Yes.
They literally should just show up and do a sale
Yeah.
and hand off the paperwork.
Exactly. Like they don't need
But
to be figuring out how this all works,
no,
getting it set up and all of
it's
that.
the
So
biggest mistake that team owners make, is trying to get agents to do more than they should be doing. They shouldn't be doing literally anything other than talking to people and closing deals. But anyway,
yeah. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
ranting.
absolutely. No. I think that makes a lot of sense. And that's why I mean I'm really curious because the CRM, right? So everybody knows they need to be using it to make calls and put in their notes and put in correct contact information for everybody, right? And so that's one of the hardest things I see like team owners to try to get their agents to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
are there solutions for that? Like what do you see people using to kind of like leverage tech or automation to get agents so they don't, it's less work to actually do what they need to be doing in order to kind of fill out the CRM and use it and leverage it for sales.
Yeah, so I mean, man, like as you said, it all starts with the CRM. Sorry, I got distracted with
I know
Marissa coming in
Marissa
here.
popped in. Hi,
Yeah.
Marissa. Yay. Hello.
um, but yeah, I mean, you have to restate your question. I'm sorry. I
Okay,
got
yeah, yeah,
totally
no.
distracted
Thank
when
you,
Marissa
CRM.
popped her
Because we're
face in. I was
talking
like,
about how
Wait,
hard
what
it
are you
is to
asking?"
get, yeah, it's hard to get agents to change their behavior. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
also hard to get them to do the things they know they should do. Hard to get everybody do that. We would all be like bodybuilders or whatever if
Yeah,
we all
yeah,
just
yeah.
immediately did what we needed to do. And so I've seen, some agents trying to adopt tech that would help make it easier, like potentially using ChatGPT or something or a tool to transcribe voice notes, right? So you talk to or to transcribe a call and then sort of direct that right into the CRM for the notes. And so the agent doesn't actually have to write out any notes. The notes are created for them. Or
Great. Yeah. I mean, the less you can have the agents doing, the better. So I would say I don't want my agents adopting any technology
right,
really,
right,
other than like using their phone, right? And like having their log into the CRM. But you're right. There's so many tools that the operation team or the administration team and the business owner can be implementing now so that the agent's not really having to do these types of things, right? And like you don't have to go, all right, you have to go learn these 4 or 5 systems that we use
right,
in our business,
right,
because they're going to do the surface level stuff, right? They're going to do the basic level things. And it's like that's where opportunities slip through the cracks, right? So yeah, if you have like, if they can use like their calling solution on their phone and then it's like, we use dial pad, right? And it transcribes everything for us,
dial pad is
right? And then you can integrate it in, through, whether it's like right now we use Zapier for that, right? So there's different tools out there, not just RealSync, like the, Zapier and Make and whatever. But yeah, then you get the transcription into a note, into the CRM, right? And ideally you trigger a task for a
right.
follow-up, right? And so things like that, just that streamline the sales process is huge. And then when you get into the operations side of things as well, right? Like there's a lot that can be done that can be automated with, tasks and checklists and all sorts of stuff, right? When it comes to that. And then marketing is like the easiest way to use Chat GPT. Like I can't believe how much more efficient and smarter the AI is than me when I'm writing my sales copy. I'll have my marketing director throw it into Chat GPT and it'll shoot it back and I'll go, oh man, that's way better.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So marketing ways, you should be using it 100%, from a marketing standpoint, right? And then there's so many different solutions that you can automate with like, text and email, right? Where like a new lead comes in and the
Like
auto text, whether
like
it's
a
in
bot,
the
like a
CRM.
bot, or like an automated like response to things, to messages.
Yeah, automated response or just like mass texting. There's like a lot of solutions. We use simple texting, which is awesome, right? And so
Simple
like you
texting. Yeah,
can,
what does that do?
so basically you can send mass texts, but you can also set up like campaign texts, right? Like so you can automate someone from like let's say they opt in on your website, then it starts like a texting sequence, right? Like it's kind of like when you go to, I like to use the example of like when you go to any product now, like that you're purchasing, like you want to purchase clothing or shoes or whatever, you're on a site and it's like, hey, like put in your phone number and we'll give you an extra 10% off on this first purchase.
Mhm.
So everyone does because you want the extra 10%. And then they start texting you, right?
Yeah,
About like
you've like
that.
opted in basically, and
Yeah, so it's the same. I mean, you should be doing that with your real estate business. And we do that. We're going to be doing that with our new website when we release it. But like, or another example is like you're doing an event, have a QR code. They scan it. They can scan do the text, and then you opt them into your texting solution. So there's just like so many different ways you can be using automation in these different technologies, but then having them integrated into your CRM, right?
right. Okay, so there's different ways to capture the information from
Mhm.
people, depending on what your main lead sources are, and then you send it into the CRM. And then where do you often have it pushed to afterwards? In terms of like, I mean, we have a lot of operations people on the call, so we're really curious about the automations and everything that's possible for a team. That's then going to take that information. Let's say it's going to become a listing, and how do we leverage tech to be able to make our listing management and transaction management processes smoother.
That's a great question. I'm not super familiar with the process of that, but I know that there's tons of different ways to automate that, I'm sure, right? Like,
Mhm.
whether it's um, document automation, a really great solution is called, open to close, has great integration
Yeah.
and transaction management type solutions. But like, I feel like automating that whole process, right? All the communication to the clients,
Mhm.
next steps, like all the orders should be
Key
automated.
dates, right? Key dates
Yeah.
and sure everyone's
Yeah. Like
notified, reminded about that.
everything in that process, because it's so systematized. Like doing sales, it's all over the place a little bit, like you're constantly having to follow up or whatever. But once you get the listing agreement, like there's a process, there should be a process.
Right, right. It
Like this
lends
happens on this
itself,
day and this day and
yeah,
this day and
it
this
lends
day. So
itself
like,
pretty naturally to, yeah. So
yeah,
it
so
makes
having
sense.
like auto communication, auto information to the agent, auto information to the title, that's involved, and all those steps that are happening. I mean, there should be automation that's happening along the way, with at least with all the communication like tasks,
Right. So that we don't need to be, like manually pulling up a template or remembering, oh, did we tell the seller about that or anything like that?
Yeah, and even texting, like you can set up, auto texts
Mhm.
too. Like on this day, send a text to, whoever,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, so all of a sudden you start thinking about, like, I'm using this solution for prospecting, but I also can use it like internally
Mhm, mhm.
facing to like inform my agent. So I'm not,
Right, right,
so you're
right.
not having to do all this one-to-one like redundant communication and work.
Right. Just the older style of
Yeah.
managing all this. Can you outline for us like what happens basically when a client comes to you and they know they're feeling some pain. I don't, maybe you can even outline like some of the pain that usually brings people to you. But then
Mm.
walk me through like how do you figure out what they need and make those recommendations to them?
Yeah. So it starts with, obviously we get on a consult. Some of the biggest pains are the simplest ones. We get a lot of people coming to us that are generating leads that are like going into an inbox. They can't figure out how to like automate it into a CRM.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Right. And so you can understand for scalability purposes, it's a big waste of time, that specific circumstance. And then also like, it can allow a lead to slip through the cracks, or you
Right,
forget.
it's like kind of bottlenecking at that point. It's getting
Yeah.
stuck in the
Or
and
like if
we know
you're
that
out,
speed to lead is so important.
yeah.
So,
Or
yeah.
like if you're out there and you're getting people, like getting their info, or like even putting it into a form. If the form isn't automating the new contact in the CRM, like again, you're just like missing the step, right? And then when it gets to CRM, you can have automation set up for like an email campaign and text campaign and like tasks, right? And tags and all those things that like you have to manually do if you're entering the contact manually, right? So that's a big thing that we solve and help a lot of clients with. But usually when I get on a call, I just like, I literally old school, you know, I still like make circles and like
Like
write in all their tech
like map
and
it out kind of.
like draw arrows and
Yeah.
like, all right, what are you doing here? And like, at what step do we need to trigger data to move over here, right? And like, I kind of go through that process, and then we go and not only use our platform, but like we'll go and look at Zapier and Make and some of these other tools, and see how we can integrate and automate all that for the particular client
Mhm,
to
mhm.
solve that problem. So, each person's situation is different. I can go on and, naming different scenarios, but like a recent one is a client of ours has three different businesses, and each business has different technologies that they have to use. One's like a staging business, and then they have like a VRBO rental business,
Mhm.
and then like property management, and then they have the real estate business. And it's like, okay, all these different systems and
Right.
all these, different businesses, like, and they have one CRM that they could technically get all the data in for and keep track of everything there, but they need the integration from all these different systems and, the flow. And so that's like it's a big project,
Right.
right?
Right.
That we're
And it's
trying to
not a
figure
thing
out
that
if that.
yeah, that they're gonna necessarily carve out time for themselves, or by the time it would take them to create that, develop that expertise that would be required in order to even know what's possible. I think that's a lot of what we see is like, I would like this result. Can that happen? And so it's a little bit
Yeah.
that's what they tap in an expert, because they're like, I don't even know if I can achieve it, let alone how.
Yeah, and it's just the amount of time like that you have to, because some of these business builders are very smart, right? But it's just the time element, like the amount of time they have to do to like do the due diligence. Maybe they have the personality type that can figure some of this stuff out and actually do it. But it's like a rabbit hole just for one solution because they're not experts at it, right? They're
Right,
experts at all the business stuff that they're doing and the businesses that they're running, which is amazing.
right.
But then adding this another layer, it's like you have to then become an expert at all this stuff too. And it becomes a big time burden, right? And so you come to us and we can diagnose it, figure out if we can do it, and then
Treat it, or
execute and do it all within a reasonable amount of time to where it's like, what's your time worth?
right,
Spend $1,000 on something like that, or like
yeah, yeah.
don't get it done for a year, like because that's what ends up happening, right?
Right. And you're investing, you're investing time now in order to try to gain time later. But it's a difficult calculation when you're doing it yourself. It's almost like a losing one. Zapier is very user friendly and also a huge pain sometimes. Because
It is.
the
It
Zapier
is.
expired, you're not really sure why and where, what was it, what field is not matching and all of that. And so I think, if you're not fully fluent in Zapier, it can be a like a whole sinkhole of time. For sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It can be very simple and get very complicated very quick.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all the great things, yeah, in life.
Mhm.
All right. In terms of like handling volume, do basically like if you put some automations in place or how much more, do you have any stats or any numbers or even stories about like basically what's possible in order to grow your business if you do these automations?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with teams that have a really like high technological like intelligence,
Mhm.
and I've seen business owners that can literally like do 200 transactions in a year with like one admin in the right technology and the right automation integrations,
Mhm.
right? So I mean that's an example, but I think for most it's uh you know reduction of labor,
Mhm.
sadly, but um the technologies can really help you be more efficient and profitable, right?
Right.
Which at the end of the day, like you don't want to be this business that has 100 agents that is barely profitable. It's
Like
just
collecting bodies, or I think also,
yeah,
one of the solutions has been that we, bring bring in more people, and you add more people and you add more people, and then, it can complexify things because now we don't know who's responsible for what. And so it actually, and a lot of the delegation piece, it doesn't take a lot of time from the person training and all of that. So sometimes it seems like, it just with better system, with more better organized systems, then you have your team focus on all the touch points, right? Like the client concierge type service, the
yeah,
pieces where it's like, oh, I remember that person, is allergic to almonds, so we're not going to give that gift, or I know that, anticipating something they're going to need during the move. And so that's how you really wow people. So it's sort of not using human labor for the parts that are just sort of standardized aspects of the service, but more for the wow factor.
yeah. So like, and going back to like even the agent side, it's like high performing agents, high level training, like the time that takes to have like a sales manager doing that right the right way.
Right.
That's how you're going to get, having the technology behind the scenes, the foundation that's helping the business be efficient to where those things can be focused on is where you want to be, right? And
Right.
so if you don't have the technology, that's where you get stretched and you're not able to do what you talked about or like on the sales side as well, so I think you absolutely can 10x 20x your business, right,
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
same people
Right.
if you
And
have the
without
rec
wearing out
technology.
those people, right? Because that's another
Yeah,
thing is like, this industry can, it can be exhausting. There's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of people working, tons of hours, not taking vacations, just basically tied to it, tied to the business, whether they're the, business owner and then the sales side or the operations person, the only one on the team who knows how this thing is done. And now they're, they can't go on vacation. And so the idea would be that through these automations, now everybody else can have a more sustainable pace of work, right? So not just increase the volume in what you're doing, but also be able to last like long term at this level.
Yeah. And like be hyper focused. You kind of mentioned that, like client concierge, like the agent. We talked about this earlier, like the agent focused on working with the clients and not having to do all these other things around it that they don't want to be doing, that they're not that good at, and that they're going to drop the ball on, right? And that's where you let the technology take over.
Yeah. So what are your favorite tools to work with, basically? Like what are some of your favorite platforms? You can name names. Like what
I
do you
can't
think
name
is
this.
like a great, like if you were to, like Scott Sillari is starting his real estate business right now and he's gonna,
Oh, I like it.
yeah, this is a little imaginative exercise. What would you put in place? Like what's your favorite flow?
Yeah. So I would build a custom website and then use Showcase IDX as the IDX tool. And then I would integrate it into Follow Up Boss, and that'd be my CRM. I would have open to close, and then I would have real sync.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Your
And our
flow?
new business intelligence solution that we're launching in about 10 days. So I'd tie that in as I grew my team so that I could see what's actually happening
Mhm.
through dashboards in my business. And then ideally I would integrate like maybe DocuSign or some form solution if open to close didn't handle that.
Mhm.
So those would be some of the tools. And then around that, I would make sure that, if Follow Boss didn't, I'm not 100% on their texting solution, but if theirs wasn't up to the par that I want, I would use simple texting. I think it's an amazing tool. Right. And then certainly you have to have a phone call solution. I think Follow Boss has a good built-in phone solution. And then I would eventually use Fellow as my database got big enough. I think
Yeah.
Fellow is an amazing tool for like bringing the people that are in your database back to the top
Mhm,
to
mhm.
generate listings, which is, the key in the business, especially as we move forward and the buyers get, shafted basically.
Right. Yeah.
With commissions.
Mhm, mhm.
That's going to be a whole thing that really everyone talks about what it's going to be like, but no one really knows what it's going to be like until it starts happening.
Until
So we'll
right,
kind of see
until
how
you
it goes.
see some of
Yeah.
the ramifications come to life. Um,
Um, so those would be my main tools, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to do a little deep dive. Follow up, boss. Why would you pick them? Is it because they play so nicely with others?
Yes. So every solution I mentioned plays nice with others,
Mhm,
has really good integration, and it allows you to control your tech.
mhm,
Right. So when when anyone's asked me like what technology to use, a lot of times it's like the 2 millimeter. It's like, is Fall Boss really that different than Brivity?
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Probably not much, right? But Brivity is way more closed off than
Right,
Fall Boss is,
right.
right? And that's just a fact.
Yeah.
It's not my judgment
Keep
of
it like
that
that insular
solution.
in the
It's
system.
just a fact. It's way more closed off with integration. Their API isn't nearly as good. So I was always looking through that lens. So
Mhm.
that's why Follow Up Boss, right? Because they have hundreds of integrations that are available. They have an amazing Zap. They integrate with us. They integrate with Make. Like they're an open API and they're constantly working on that part of their business, right? As well as the front end part of for the user experience.
So,
So
so
that
meaning that essentially whatever ways that you have your leads coming in, you'll almost certainly be able to direct them towards Follow Boss in the way that you want. And then
mhm.
you can then send it to wherever you want also. So kind of
Yep.
like manipulate it for whatever specific piece that you want. Oh, I think Marissa has a chat question. Um, what would you use Make for if you have Follow Up Boss?
If I needed like more custom type integration solutions that weren't particularly on RealSync, I think for most teams they wouldn't use Make. It's kind of extreme. You need to have like a developer on your team to actually maximize that solution. honestly, most stuff with Follow Boss is available through Zapier or direct integrations that they have. So most of the tools you'd be able to use through Zap, if it was like, let's say it was a tech tool that's outside of the real estate industry
Mhm.
per se, that Follow Boss hasn't directly integrated with, there would be a Zap into Follow Boss, because Follow Boss has a very robust Zap for inbound data and outbound.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about, for example, if you wanted to use Trello for your project management or listing
Sure.
management side of things, then you could get it to
Mhm.
talk to Follow Boss through Zapier very easily.
Yeah, like Slack.
Yeah, Slack. Mhm.
We use Jira, which is part of the Atlassian, which owns Trello too. So it's the same type of suite, right? So yeah, there's just a lot that you could do there.
Yeah.
And then I would also incorporate over time, um, depending on how much money I'm making, I would develop some some AI technology type thing. There's some solutions out there, like Structurally has added this new voice call. So is Ylopo. I think it's not quite there yet on how, how good it is, right? But there's this company called Vapi, VAPI, that I think Structurally is actually using, that like you can build to. And anyone watching this, go to VAPI. I think it's .ai, and then just have a conversation with the bot. It's mind blowing.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's like
mind blowing.
the next level.
Yeah, like it's a better sales trainer for your agents than probably 90% of the sales trainers out there.
Wow. That's exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we were talking to it as if like we needed help training our agents,
Right.
and it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So then that's
yeah.
also leverage, right, in terms of the training
Hmm.
piece of it, because that's something that I see helping build operations manuals and training for onboarding agents, right? It gets quite complex, like all the things that we have to teach them. So now we have to build out the training for all the different sections, parts of the tech stack, and then and keep it updated as things evolve. But then also like make sure they're actually watching it and engaging with it and learning it,
Hmm.
because that's really difficult. You join a new brokerage, or you join a new team, and the learning curve is steep. And I think that's one of the sort of like barriers to success in the first 90 days, right? Is like now all the things you have to figure out just to be able to make those phone calls sometimes, or to be able to get those new clients. So on the train.
Yeah, I mean that goes back to behaviors, right? And like, whenever I think about hiring anyone, motivation, behaviors, and skills,
Mhm.
right? And like skills can be trained. You can be motivated, but if your behaviors aren't good,
Right.
you're not going to make it, right? So
Habits that you're bringing, that you've acquired, that created
yeah,
these grooves in your brain, and you don't even realize that you're on autopilot, and how hard it is to become conscious of them, choose to make the shifts and actually have that be an ingrained habit. This is like, I know a lot of the teams are really interested in, they like bringing on new buyers agents or new agents for just that purpose, because it's a lot easier to sort of get them to use your systems and play into them.
yeah, it's easier to mold someone that's young and hasn't had like 20 years of doing things in a certain way, where it's much harder to change those habits, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
get it.
I want
Yeah.
to dive in a few more of these. So your business, you said it's a business intelligence platform that your business.
Yeah, so we've been building a product for a year. Um, we're launching it. I don't know when you're sending this out, but probably beginning of June. And yeah, it's a BI solution which basically will connect to all the apps that our platform connects to. You can connect it into our solution and visualize the data and see the dashboards. And over time, we're gonna kind of layer in not only AI down the road, but we're also going to be just layering in like informed data in real time so that you can take action to make adjustments in your business. So an example would be, you know, if you're so caught up doing your own business and you don't realize like an agent's kind of slipping off and you don't catch it for a few months, right? like we're going to catch it within the first week of when
Right.
things start
If
to
their
slip.
numbers are,
Their
yeah,
numbers, their dials, their talk time, their conversion on certain things. Like
yeah.
there's going to be baselines, not only from the date, like, historic data maybe that you give us, but if you don't have that, like there's going to be baselines that we work off of based on what we know
Or
someone
like
should be doing.
conversion rates or what, yeah, that you've
Yeah.
calculated. Yeah. So you're not,
And
there's no
then you the
guesswork.
owner,
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to get this notification, but then you're also going to get, we're going to tell you what you should do.
Mhm, mhm. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the
Exactly.
biggest problem with some of these tools out there that I've seen is that like it's giving you all this data, but like you don't know how to decipher it. You don't
Right.
necessarily
It's
know what
not
to do.
analyzing it, or it's not analyzing it for you necessarily, but it's definitely not interpreting it into action items, right? Like,
Exactly.
okay,
And so that's what
this number is this, so that means you need to go do this.
yeah, 2 + 2 = 4, right?
Right.
It's like
Exactly.
you're getting all the numbers, but they're not adding up and they're not telling you
Right.
what
There's
the
no context for it. So how do you
yeah,
how do you know that's not a great number? How do you know what that means? And especially, I think, especially new agents, they want to know, like, if I want to earn this much money, like how many phone calls do I need to make today? Right. And so you can kind of
correct.
calculate, backwards from that.
Yeah, so that's why we're calling it a business intelligence solution, because that's the pathway of what we're going to do with the data that we're gathering, and you're going to be able to connect, your CRM like Follow Boss
Mhm.
or QuickBooks Online for
I
like,
was going to ask
have your
about the
financials.
financial side of things. Yeah, is it track like ROI? Because that's one of the big
Hmm.
things I know. Like so many agents and team owners, they're making these choices and these investments with the idea that it's going to bring in business, but you don't know until you have that data, right?
Yeah, so we're tracking ROI for sure, and then we're going to be there's going to be a whole financial page for the owner within the tool, seeing all their data. We're working with a company to help us build that out properly. That specifically like basically acts as a CFO for real estate teams. So they're going to kind of help us do that to make sure that our integration with QuickBooks Online is very robust and is showing the owner the data, the financials that they need to see to make decisions.
Like the main,
So,
like this a health checkup for the business, or like the
mhm,
financials, like you do your stats. I don't know, what's your blood pressure? What's your, this key indicator
yeah,
of the financial health of the business at your fingertips. Because I think, a lot of us, I'll say, not just business owners, live in a money fog kind of situation. And especially in real estate, it seems like it's, feast or famine, boom or bust, and they make decisions. Humans just sort of do this based on what's that number in the bank account, right? As opposed to like a corporation, like a business where you make those long-term investments in order to see the return. And so this helps.
yeah,
Again, like helps with the mind of a CFO in the real estate agent and the team owner.
yeah.
Talk to me about leaderboards. Like, is there, kind of competition spirit that's fostered through this tool?
Yeah, so there'll be some leaderboards, and then the agents will have access to certain pages, and then the owner can turn on.
Right, right,
There's
right.
like a
You don't
level
always
they
want
can,
everyone to view everything in the
yeah, they can turn on a competition mode to
got it.
make it a little bit more competitive if they want. And there's just going to be a lot of features like that. And then, there's going to be key indicators in all the facets of the business. So you're going to see all the agent activity happening, all the transaction things that are going on, the money, the ROI, the lead source data. And then you're going to also get all the conversion rates, not just like on lead sources, but conversion rates of like, lead to appointment or lead to, you know,
Right, right,
lead to contact or lead, all those different conversions as well. You're going to have access to, and then of course the financials, right? So just everything kind of in one place where the owner can come in and see the health of their business, and then also get notified when things are off, when there's
right.
triggers that
So
are
we want to know, yeah,
happening.
yeah, and what action you should take. Is there any kind of gamification in the leaderboard side of things?
Yeah, there will be. I mean, initially, I think it's more just showing the data,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, there'll be some gamification over time, and
yeah.
competition things that you can do
Yeah, like
and
a badge
make
or
it
a
fun.
certificate or something.
Yeah.
That's very big in the like digital learning space.
Yeah, I mean, we're not like putting points. Like
Right,
it's,
right.
it's like you made this many contacts, like you're winning.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
right? Like,
No, right. And there's tons of research that shows just knowing your number, like how that motivates you to actually sort of make,
well, knowing it, but then knowing where, like, if you do this much based on like historical data within the
right,
business or within the
be the
space,
result. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is what the results will be. So
It
we
is
want
a
to showcase
formula.
that.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
just need enough, of a biggest enough sample size to know that it is a formula. It feels random, whether you get that client or another, but it is a formula. There is a ratio out there. And so that can
absolutely.
be really comforting and inspiring to take action, for sure. In terms of the transaction information that it would show, can it give like a dashboard of where the current deals are, or like
Mhm.
dates? Can that sync to other tools like a Google Calendar for a closing date reminder, or like an announcement in Slack for congratulations, this listing's on account, those types of
It
things.
will. Yeah, it will over time. It's a work in progress as far as the integrations that we'll have along with the BI solution. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, all those products are going to be available for integration
Because you
over
see,
time. Yeah.
yeah, and because you work with so many real estate teams, right? You know what they're looking for, what information they especially want to have, because that's what we see most is like dashboard view. I mean, they want to be able to access the details of the transaction, whatever their operation team is doing, but they also just want like a at the glance, pull it up, know, sort of what the status of everything.
Oh
Um,
yeah. So you'll have that for sure. And like
yeah,
you'll be able to click in and like pull up more data on each transaction and like kind of where they at, what status they're in.
yeah.
All the basic details that you would need on a transaction. And then over time, there'll be more and more data fed into the solution as we integrate to more transaction solutions and QuickBooks and things like that. The reality is most of the CRMs don't have very robust transactions management in them, or transaction data in general,
Right.
let alone that it's available in the API, which
Right,
means
right,
that
right.
it's
Because then
available to
the
integrate with.
the most accurate source of truth for that information is usually whatever tool the brokerage requires for compliance, right? Like, so that's like wherever they have
Exactly.
to put the information, that's
Yeah. Did I have to put it in the
those,
Sky Slope or
yeah,
Dot
those
Loop
tools
or
do not
DocuSign?
always play
Yeah.
nicely with other. Like those are sort of maybe among the least likely to play well.
Right, right. So like Sky Slope's a great example of there's no like Zapier with Sky Slope. So it's like either you have a company like us that's built integration to it, or there's a direct integration to it,
Yeah.
but you're kind of limited in that. So we're going to make it more available where that's something that's built into our platform, and
How
then also available to be the pull the data in, or push it. Right.
how do you build it then if they're not? I mean, did they share their API
Yeah,
keys or
we pay monthly for access for it.
got it? Okay,
Right.
okay.
So
And then
we pay a
from
certain
that,
amount a month and we're allowed to, and so I'm sure if we start using it a lot more and making a lot more API calls, it'll probably charge us more money. But
right, right,
for
right.
now, yeah, that's how it works with some of these solutions, right? Is that they're like, they're, and I get it too. Like they're in their lane, they're making a lot of money, they're doing their thing.
Right.
Like it doesn't necessarily behoove
They're
them
not
to do that.
necessarily motivated. They're not
No,
losing potential clients because of their. I wonder if that will change over time though, because people really do want it all streamlined. They really do want to just have to put it into one place. And again, that's a very good place to put it because that has to be correct for compliance purposes. They want to be able to put it in there, and then they want to be able to send it everywhere else.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. All it takes is one new solution that creates a lot of competition and that's open
right.
to force some of these companies to make changes, right? And so, there's I I've seen it in the CRM space.
Mhm.
Like Follow Boss has done such a good job being open. We talked about that earlier, and there's other solutions, I'm not going to name names, out there that realized that their approach being a little bit more closed off was the wrong approach,
Right.
and that they need to be more open. They've made shifts,
Yeah.
appropriate shifts to do that, right? And so there's always that chance of change that will happen when a
As it
company gets
evolves.
forced.
Yeah, as the
Yeah, they have to,
expectations, yeah,
right?
expectations that clients have for their products shift over time, right? And if that's now an important concern, then
Yeah.
they're going to have to adapt if they want to keep clients. That's for sure. Um, Fellow, can you remind me about? I know you've talked about it before. What does Fellow do, and why would that be in your stack?
So Fellow basically they embed like a widget into your website, and then they do a lot of marketing. Now they're doing some direct mail, and they basically have an integration with, I think, oh God, what's the name of the company? I forget, but like they pull in like all the real historic, like every data point you can possibly imagine on like every property owner in the country. And they've been able to identify like when is the right time to send an email blast out based on certain data points, right? And it's just a way that they strategically are marketing with the right message to the right market at the right time
Yeah.
to get that person to re-engage. That's been sitting in your database for 7 years. They re-opt in, they pull in all the data into your CRM, and allows you then to have a follow-up of someone that you've already paid for. So the idea is that you're paying Fellow to convert the leads you've already bought instead
Got it.
of buying new cold leads, right?
Got it. Okay. So it's sort of like keeping an eye on them behind the scenes, and if they take specific action that we know may lead to indicate that they are warmer, then they're getting
Exactly.
ready to get it. It makes me think of how like Target, right, through their purchases, they know you're gonna have a baby before you do, or is there something like that? It was
Oh
like,
yeah, it's
yeah.
creepy.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
like to think we're so unique. And yet, right, we have these patterns of behavior that tend to indicate, certain results or
Yeah, I've heard stories about like women that like are being marketed baby stuff and they didn't even know they were pregnant yet. But
right.
yeah,
Some of
it's
the
crazy.
ads, though, yeah, I mean, Instagram has got my number. Let me tell you. I'm like, I don't know. I have a conversation about something, and then I start to get the ads. And so I can see how other companies in other fields are taking advantage of this, right? Other industries are
Yeah.
really taking advantage of it. So this would be the equivalent for real estate to be able to, aggregate that data and put it to very good use.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Do we have any questions from our audience that we want to ask for? First, ask Scott while we still have him. It's very, very lucky to have him here, available to answer everything. I'm curious about, I mean, do you do a lot of integrations with like the Google Workspace, like Google Sheets, Google Cat? I mean, that's where it seems like most people are working at. And there used to be Dropbox was like the storage place, and everybody's in Google. Like, do you see like you mentioned forms earlier? Is it usually Google Forms or
Yeah, I mean the whole Google Workspace is like has pretty good integration with Zapier, but we're gonna have a very robust integration to Calendar, Gmail, contacts, pretty much anything that you'd use
yeah, it's
within
like Google
Google.
Sheets. A lot of people,
Mhm.
like transaction data really lends itself like nicely to Google Sheets, like
Yep.
a spreadsheet view, and so it's like really nice to be able to like push info in there and pull from it also.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So that's really good. And then kind of to circle back, I know you talked briefly about AI, but
Yeah, please.
if you're not like looking into it and either doing it yourself or assigning someone to use it within your business and you're falling behind, you need to, especially when Chat GBT 5 comes out. I mean, it's really you're going to be really it's going to be very easy to prompt it to do things for you, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so like, imagine a world where you're given an option as a business owner, you know, go train your agent more because they're not doing their job, or just click this button and let the AI do it for you.
Right, right.
And that's where we're going to be,
So
right? So if
training.
you don't keep up, you're going to be out of
Now
a
you're
job.
wasting hour. I mean, time is money, right? And you think about the real estate agents and their rate per hour that they could be earning or bringing into the business if they're prospecting. For, basically, if they're doing anything else, that's how much it costs to build. Anything operations wise or anything, training wise. That's what it's costing the business if they're not. That's how much it's costing them if they're not focused on prospecting. So, and when you say training, it's like showing that basically like showing them the right way to do it, but then also offering corrections. Like
Yeah.
they'll offer like it offers feedback and
Yeah. And, or like, hey, like you didn't call these 10 people. I'm gonna have the bot do it because you didn't. And if
okay.
it keeps happening, you're
Yeah.
not gonna have a job. I'm just gonna have
Right.
the
You're not
bot
getting
do
feedback
it.
or
And I'm gonna have
whatever.
the bot schedule an appointment for me, and you're not gonna get the appointment. And the
Yeah.
person that's answering the phone's not going to know anymore if
Right.
it's a person or a bot,
Wow.
unless
It's
there's
that good.
restriction put around it where they have to say something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's getting that good in terms of,
It's
yeah.
going to be that good. It's going to be better. So I've heard stories. I'm not going to name companies that have tested it internally against their salespeople, and
Mhm.
the AI bots outperform the salespeople.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were
And that's
talking before we
only
got
going
the
to keep
call about,
happening.
yeah, I'm not a
Yeah.
huge fan of sales calls, but if I have a bot do it for me, I'm happy to take the business it brings in.
Sure. Like me as a business owner, like why would I have agents
Right.
doing a poor job when I can have a bot do a better job and just schedule appointments for me?
How do,
That's like,
yeah,
as an agent, you need to be
of
worried
course.
about that. You should be worried about that. Do your job better.
Right. Yeah. So it's gonna like again changing the expectations, right? Or like raising the bar in terms of performance and conversion rate. Like it will
Yeah.
absolutely be a motivator for everybody to work on their skills, not be complacent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And will certainly improve the level overall of people's skill set because if you can't make it, then you're going to have to leave the industry. But I hope there also be other opportunities, like we said on the, focusing on a client care side. There've got to be things or aspects of communication, in person, for example, that it can't replace, and so then we just become specialists in that, right?
Yeah. So like it's going to be much more like the things that are way higher up the funnel are handled by
Everything is there.
the
Yep. And
AI,
you
right?
get
And
like
then like the
super nice,
agents.
warm, hot leads, like ready, and you go have a coffee or,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
something social with them, which they like
Which,
anyway. Everybody likes to do those things
yeah,
when you pick up the phone anyway.
yes, absolutely. So it's going to allow your top performers, your best agents to do more of what they like to do anyway,
Right. Go
which is like
golfing,
actually having real conversations with
go
people that
to
are ready to talk
lunch.
to them
Mm-hmm.
rather than
Parties.
making all the cold calls and
Right.
pounding the phones,
Yeah.
which you don't want them doing anyway. But now, as a business owner, if you think about that, like think about how many more people you're reaching out to and how many more deals you can get in the pipeline for your particular agent. So then
Right.
you don't have to have 30 agents where you have the A, B's, and C's. You just
Right.
have only A's
Right.
handling all the work, right?
Right.
So
And
that,
enjoying it. And
yeah,
enjoying it because they get to do the part they love best, which is perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Scott. This is very exciting. It's a
yeah, no problem.
bright new world out there.
Yeah.
All right. We look forward to talking to you again soon. We'll send out this recording to our community so everyone can benefit from what you shared, and we'll be in touch. Thanks again. We'll
Thanks.
put all the
Thanks,
information.
Laura.
Can't wait to see your
Thanks for
data.
sticking through this, Marissa.
I
Appreciate it.
know. We got Abby in there too.
Thanks,
Woohoo.
Abby. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.